Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Futuh Al Ghaib, The Revelations of the Unseen by Muhiyeddeen Abdul Qadir Al Gilani Qaddasallahu Sirrahul Azeez. The 54th discourse. He, may Allah be pleased with him, said, Whosoever desires the life hereafter, it is incumbent upon him to be indifferent towards the world. Whosoever desires the life hereafter, it is incumbent upon him to be indifferent towards the world. And whosoever desires Allah, it is incumbent upon him that he should be indifferent towards the life of hereafter. Thus, he should discard his worldly life for the sake of his Lord. So, as long as any desire from among the desires of this world continues to exist in his heart, and any relish from among the relishes of it, and any effort for comfort from among the comforts of the world, in regard to various things of food and drink and dress and marriage and residence and conveyance and rulership and chieftainship and advancement in his knowledge of various branches of learning and of jurisprudence in preference to 5 institutions of worship and to the narrations of hadith of Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and the recitations of the Quran with varied tones and varied syntax and lexicography and rhetoric, as also the desire of the disappearance of poverty and appearance of affluence and the departure of calamity and the coming of comfort and everything, the removal of difficulty and coming of benefit. All such things are desires, and it lingers in the mind of a person. If it is so, he is certainly not a pious man, because in every one of these things, in every one of these desires, there is relish and pleasure for the self of man, and harmony with the desire of the flesh, and comfort of the mind, and love for it. And these things constitute worldly life in which one loves to remain for good, and in which one tries to get composure of mind and satisfaction. It beseems one to strive for the expulsion of all these things from the heart and prepare oneself to remove all these desires and to root them out from the mind and to cultivate pleasure in annihilation and abiding poverty and neediness, so that there does not remain in his heart so much as the pleasure of the suckling of the stone. It beseems one to strive for these expulsions of all these things from the heart and prepare oneself to remove all these pleasures and to root them out from the mind and to cultivate pleasure in annihilation and abiding poverty and neediness, so that there does not remain in his heart so much as the pleasure of the sucking of the stone of a date, and so that his abstainedness in worldly life may become pure. So, when he has perfected it, all grief and sorrow from his heart and all anxiety from his mind will disappear, and there will come to him comforts and goodly life and intimacy with Allah, as has been said by Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Indifference towards the world brings happiness to the heart and body. Indifference towards the world brings happiness to the heart and body. But so long as there remains in his heart any attractions for this world, sorrows and griefs and fear and apprehension will have a standing abode in his heart, and abasement will be a necessary concomitant for him, as also the state of being veiled from Allah, the mighty, the glorious, and from his nearness, by a veil thick in several folds. So all these will not be removed except through the complete disappearance of the love of his world. So all these will not be removed except through the complete disappearance of the love for this world and by cutting all the connections with it. Next, he should be indifferent towards the life of hereafter also. Next, he should be indifferent not only towards this world but also to the hereafter, so as no wishes for ranks and high grades and beautiful maidens and handsome boys and houses and mansions and conveyance of suits and clothes and ornaments of the Jannah and articles of food and drink and other things of this kind from among what Allah the Great has kept prepared for his believing servants. So he should not try to get any recompense and reward for his action from Allah, the Mighty, the Glorious, at all this world or in the hereafter. So he should not expect any recompense or reward for his actions from Allah, neither in this world nor in the hereafter, except for the nearness of Allah. It is only then that he will find Allah giving the full measure of his account as an act of grace from himself and as a kindness. So he will draw him near himself and will lavish his kindness on him, and he will make himself known to him with various kindness and acts of goodness, as it is his practice to do with his prophets and messengers and with his awliyas and his favorites and friends, possessed of knowledge of him. So the servant becomes every day more and more improved in regard to his affairs throughout his life, and then he is transferred to the abode of the hereafter to experience what no eyes has seen, no ear has heard, and which has not occurred to any humankind, which in fact surpasses all understanding and which no explanation suffices to cover. The 55th discourse. He, may Allah be pleased with him, said, "The enjoyments of life are discarded thrice. In the beginning, the servant of Allah goes on the darkness. In the beginning, the servant of Allah goes on in the darkness of his ignorance and in a distracted condition, acting freely by the urges of his nature in all the various circumstances, without any attitude of service towards his Lord, and without any reign of religious law to control him, and without any limits where to stop by his order. While he is in this state, Allah looks to him with the eye of mercy. So he sends him an admonisher from among the people, one who is a righteous servant of his, and a counterpart of this admonisher is also found in his own self. So both these admonishers become victorious over his self and nature, and admonition produces effects on his mind. Then the defect of what is in him, such as his riding the conveyance of his own nature and his opposition to the truth, becomes manifest. So he inclined towards the law of Allah in all his activities. Thus the servant of Allah becomes a Muslim, standing by the laws of Allah, vanishing from his own nature and giving up the unlawful things of the world, as also those that are doubtful in nature, and the help of people. So he takes to true permissible things and things made lawful by law in all questions of food and drink and dress and marriage and residence and all other affairs. And all this is unavoidable in protecting the foundations of physical health and in deriving strength for obedience to Allah, so that one may receive in full the share allotted to him and beyond which one cannot go. And there is no getting away from this worldly life before having access to it, and obtaining it and completing it. There is no getting away from this worldly life before having access to it and obtaining it and completing it. So he travels on the conveyance of permissible and lawful things in conditions of his life, so much so that his conveyance takes him to the highest place of vilayat and gives him an entry into the company of the verifiers of truth and chosen people possessed of firm resolutions who are desirous of the reality which is Allah. So he eats with his order. Then he, the pilgrim, hears a voice from Allah within himself saying, "Discard your own self and come to me. Discard enjoyments and the creations if you want the Creator. Discard enjoyments and the creation if you want the Creator. And put off both your shoes of this world and of the hereafter, and be empty of all existences, and of things which will be created in future, and of all desires, and be devoid of all and vanish from everything, and be happy with the unity of Allah and the discarding of polytheism, and with the sincerity and of purpose. Then enter the vast expanse of divine nearness with your head bent low out of reverence, and do not look right towards the life hereafter, nor left towards the worldly life, nor yet towards the people, nor yet still towards enjoyments." Then when he attains this stage and his arrival there becomes an established fact, he receives the robe of honor from Allah and is covered with lights of honor and various kinds of favor. Then when he attains this stage and his arrival, there comes an established fact. He receives the robe of honor from Allah and is covered with lights of honor and various kinds of favor. Then it is said to him, "Dress yourself with blessings and favors, and do not be ill-mannered so as to reject and discard desires, because the rejection of the gifts of the king amounts to putting pressure on him and slighting his august power." Then he becomes wrapped up with his favor and allotment without his playing any part in the matter, because it is a gift. And before this, he used to be covered in his desires and urges of the self. So it will be said to him, "Cover yourself with the blessings and favors of Allah." And it will be said to him, "Cover yourself with the blessings and favors of Allah instead of your own desires." So for him there are four status in attaining the enjoyments and allotments. The first state is that of the urges of the nature, and this is unlawful. The second state is of the law, and this is permissible and lawful. And the third state is that of the inner commandment, and this is the state of vilayat and discarding of desires, even if it is permissible. And the fourth state is that of divine favor, and this is the state of disappearance of purpose and attainment of badaliyat, and of being the divine objective, standing by the decree of destiny, which is the act of Allah, and this is the state of knowledge and of being composed and possessed of quality of righteousness, and no one can be called really righteous unless he has attained this position. So for him there are four status in attaining the enjoyments and allotments. The first state is that of the urge of the nature, which is unlawful. He had to pass through that. The second state is of the law, and this is permissible and lawful. And the third state is that of inner commandment, and this is the state of vilayat and discarding of the desires, even if it is permissible. And the fourth state is the divine favor, and this is the state of disappearance of purpose and attainment of badaliya, that is, being united with the divine objective, standing by the decree of destiny, which is the act of Allah, and this is the state of knowledge and of being possessed of the quality of righteousness, and no one can be called really righteous unless he has achieved this fourth position. And this accords with the words of Allah, surely my friend is Allah who has revealed the book and he befriends the righteous people. Surely my friend is Allah who has revealed the book and he befriends the righteous people. Chapter 12, verse 196. So, he is a servant who is restrained from utilizing anything of use and benefit to himself and from rejecting anything that harms and causes mischief to him. He becomes like a sucking baby in the hands of its nurse, or like a dead body that is being washed by the one who is giving its funeral bath. So the hand of providence undertakes his upbringing without his having any choice in the matter, and without any effort on his part. He disappearing from all these things and not having any state, nor any position, nor yet any purpose, but standing by the decree of destiny, who sometimes puts him in restraint and at others makes him feel at ease and sometimes make him rich and at others make him poor. And he makes no choice, nor does he entertain any desire for the passing of any state and change in it. On the contrary, he shows absolute submission, abiding by the rule of Allah and discarding the pleasures and discarding the pleasures of this world and the hereafter. And this is the last point of spiritual state which is obtained by Abdal and Awliya.